Well, welcome back everybody. I was gone for a while, or it seems like a really long time actually, but I'm back. Adam did a great job leading while I was gone, and everyone else who took partial leadership roles, thank you all very much. Thanks everybody for coming out last time. Thanks for coming out this time. The group's becoming more refined. Certain people from last semester are deciding not to be a part of it or not being asked back. New people are coming in. We've got a few new members this semester, and we have more coming in. Some that were accepted today and are being accepted in the next few days. So over the next week, 2 weeks, you'll see new faces coming in. No one in this group is being filtered out, so hopefully everyone will be back for the remaining of the semester. So we're going to start with a little bit. Alright, so tonight what we've got on our plate is we're going to just introduce everybody, get reestablished with who everybody is. I know most people know each other from last semester, but we're going to reacquaint ourselves, and then we're going to acquaint ourselves with our new members. It's going to be short. We're going to do an update on the last semester's project, which is named Knox Inc. We're going to have one last docket idea building activity, then we're going to vote on the official docket for the semester. Then we're going to have a little break where we count the things. Caitlin has cookies. Then we're going to start work on the new project. Everybody's itching to actually get to do something instead of talking about lots of things. So we're going to jump right in that, and we're going to do a little bit of mixing in between the disciplines, come back, work within the disciplines, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next week. So let's get started. Alright, so what we're going to do is everybody pair up, and you need to tell your partner these things about you, and then your partner is going to introduce you to everyone else. We're going to do this like relatively quickly and efficiently, but let's get to know each other a little bit more. So everybody pair up.
This is John, and his major is accounting. He is a junior. His current employer is Crow accounting firm,
Crow Horwath.
Yeah, that. And when he finishes school, he wants to work for a top 10 accounting firm. And something we don't know about John is that he grew up playing soccer.
I didn't do that.
All right. Thank you. This is Meg. She's a poli-sci major. She is a senior. She's currently employed at Oak Ridge Laboratory. And when she finishes school, she wants to go to grad school and eventually get her PhD. Something you don't know about Meg is that she really likes horses.
You guys want to go next?
Sure. I'll start. This is Jackson Blansett. He is majoring in logistics and marketing. He is a senior. He was last employed at PFG, PTG, PGT Trucking, where he ran a dock of trucks. Something like that. Something with trucks. He drove a truck. When he graduated school, he'd like to be the White House Chief of Staff, and he was deaf for the first 3 years of his life.
Alright, this is Sean. He's got a major in history and political science, right? Correct. He's a junior, and his last employment was working at YMCA as a swim lesson instructor. And when he finishes school, he wants to be the President of the United States. Something we don't know about Sean is that his favorite karaoke song is Night Moves.
Awesome.
I like it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Sure.
This is Jonathan Sessions. He is a senior economics major. He was recently a courier at a law firm downtown. When he finishes school, he just wants to get a job. He just wants to get a job. Something we don't know about Jonathan is that he lived in Belgium for 2 years with his family when he was 11.
All right, this is Andrew Owens. He is a junior in advertising, and he is currently, or as soon as they open, going to be employed at Tupelo Honey Cafe. So I'm going to get there because it's really good. What they to do when they finish school, he wants to travel for a year, and then something we don't know about him, he went to Mizzou his freshman year.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right.
This is Mark Listus. He's a senior in political science, and he wants to go to law school after he graduates, and eventually with that he wants to be a corporate lawyer. It's fascinating stuff we have here. He got promoted, and he's the assistant campaign manager for the Republican caucus on 2 campaigns, not 1 or 2 campaigns. It's excellent. And a fact that you all want to know is that he could dunk a basketball when he was 13 years old. So, congratulations.
Thank you. This is my esteemed colleague and friend, Hannah Klein. Hannah is a advertising major, and she's a senior, and she was recently employed at a summer camp where she was an assistant director. When she finishes school, she wants to do interactive media with the entertainment industry, which I've been informed all about. And something I don't know, or something none of us know about Hannah is that she makes epic scavenger hunts, self-prescribed efficacy. But
That's cool.
she prides herself on her scavenger hunt ability. You guys want to go next?
Absolutely. This is Lindsay Fleck. She's a senior in public relations. She works as a nanny. She has worked on and off selling fireworks. She does that around the Nashville area, pretty much wherever the law will allow. She sets up shop wherever. She would like to, when she graduates, get some experience and eventually work towards, ideally, working as a PR consultant for a nonprofit dealing with autism. Something you don't know about her, when she was a freshman in high school, she got maced as an innocent bystander of a gang fight.
Oh. Right.
Yeah, there was police there. That's why I got maced. This is Adam Wright. He's a senior, and he's majoring in political science and American studies. Okay, I thought it was animal studies for a second. And after school, he's going to maybe go to Spain or med school, which is crazy because that's biology. And he was a pizza dough person, which is really cool because they throw pizza dough up and it hits the ceiling. And things you don't know about is he has a lot of quirks, but I was supposed to make something up.
It's one of my quirks.
You want to do that?
This is Ryan. He is a business major with a collateral in international business and a minor in Spanish. He's a junior. He is currently employed at the Kroger Pharmacy. After school, he wants to go into the aviation industry, perhaps do some management with planes. And something y'all don't know about him is that he loves jumping out of planes for fun. Yeah.
This is Caitlin Yanis. She is a PR major with a minor in business and Spanish. She is a senior, and she is currently employed by Scripps Network. And when she finishes school, she would like to possibly go abroad and teach in Europe, potentially in Spain, then come back and move to New York and work in the PR industry. And something y'all don't know about Caitlin is she used to steal candy from those little candy machines.
At Walgreens,
At Walgreens.
as a child.
How?
You know the things where you put like 10
Essentially
cents in,
stealing from
and they
a
had like, yeah, I never put the money in, I just took the candy.
How did you get it?
Huh?
How did you get it?
Get what?
The candy.
Oh, that's really
They just
easy.
had the things that you just open up. Back in the day, like
That was
at
honor
Walgreens.
system?
Huh?
An honor system?
Yeah, it was off an honor
Yeah, you
system.
did like St. Jude.
Like
Oh, that's
the
really
some of the
I didn't
candy things,
understand.
if you can unscrew the tops if you have a penny, and
really?
I didn't know any better. It's the only illegal activity, so my record's clear.
Let's have Hunter introduce himself. Hunter, we need your name, major, year, school, last or current employment, what you want to do when you finish school, and something we don't know about you. Hunter's an MMA fighter, and I'm not going to let him tell you that he's an MMA fighter.
That's
great. Pick something else.
He wants to introduce him.
Ryan, you want to introduce Hunter?
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
introduce Hunter.
All right. Ryan,
Okay.
good introduction.
So, his name is Hunter Thomas Boykin.
Wrong.
Thomas Hunter Boykin, like I said. He is a logistics major. He is currently a senior. He is currently employed by Kroger Pharmacy. And when he finishes school, he wants to get a job, potentially go to law school. Maybe we're just going to see where the road takes you. And something you guys don't know about Hunter is we used to play hockey together.
So we met.
Very
Plus
well.
diabetic camp.
We went to diabetic camp as well.
Diabetic hockey team?
It's awesome.
But
We play a
it's
half
too much
league
awesome in one place.
Done a little bit more business. Okay, so let's get a little bit of an update on Knox Inc. There may have been a little bit of confusion, maybe not, about what Knox Inc. was. Knox Inc. was what last semester's project was eventually dubbed. It was addressing the issue of a lack of synergy within Knoxville. Students don't want to go to Knoxville after, or they don't want to live in Knoxville after they graduate. Business owners don't want to hire UTK students after they graduate from here. They want them from other places. A few statistics really driving the point. We did a survey, more than 100 students surveyed. People who want to work elsewhere other than Knoxville after they graduate, 87.5%. Only 12.5% of current Knoxville students want to stay here after they graduate. That in combination with the next statistic of the question was whether or not you think Knoxville businesses are more likely to hire students from Knoxville or not. 58.3%, more than half said that they thought it would be easier finding a job coming out of Knoxville in Knoxville. 41.7% the other way. So literally more than half of students at UT think it's easier to get a job, but are still willing to do the work to move elsewhere. That plus a survey, if you were here last semester, if you weren't, you can see this in the videos, about Knoxville businesses and their diversity statements and how they don't want to hire Knoxville students. So we came up with a solution of a 3-day event with a local area opportunity section of our soon-to-come website. 3-day event, bringing TED Talks to a student level, having employers use that as a vetting service. The second day, use either the G-Case or create our own job fair. And then a third day, have a local OCI program, on-campus interviews for anyone who doesn't know what OCI programs are. That's where we are. That's where we left off. We kind of hit the end of the semester and beginning of the summer real quick. But we should all be up to speed on that. So with that, what we're going to do with that project this semester is we're going to add that, we're going to re-add that to the docket. And if we choose to go back and do Knoxville or Knox Inc. again, what we're going to do is we're just going to add it to the top of the docket. If we don't, we can move on and do something else. The group's a little bit different this semester. It's going to continue to be different, so we thought we'd open it up to everybody. So with that in mind, we're going to do one last docket brainstorming activity, and then we're going to put all of the options up in front of everybody. We're going to vote on the docket. We're going to get started. We're going to take a little bit of break, tally up the votes, present it back to what everybody picked, come back, and we're going to get started. And everybody's really excited to get working on something instead of just all this downloaded information every week. So we're going to work towards that goal. So what we're going to do is we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, if I count it right. 14 people here. 4 groups would, yeah, 4 groups will work. 4 groups, and you're going to do it just like we did it last week. For those of you who weren't last week, you're going to pick a problem, something that you want to see addressed, and we're going to brainstorm on possible solutions for it or other problems. You can bounce ideas off of each other. The only caveat this time is that the solution must be policy-centric. What I mean by that is it has to include some sort of national or local Tennessee state policy change. We come up with business ideas really easily. So we're going to come up with some policy ideas. We're going to have 10 minutes once we're broken into groups. We're going to come back. We're going to do our little presentations, cross-examination, and we're going to get on to docket voting. Okay, the only restriction is your group can't be solely made up of people from your own department tonight, so PR and business right now, break up. And other than that, let's break into groups.
Actually, I would like to see a lot better education programs in schools. Like
that, I'd like to talk about.
Our CBC program was
This is what we're talking about.
like all they were there for was to spend the day like playing. Like they didn't.
It was like a daycare.
Yeah, it was a
rather
daycare.
than like a
They
life
weren't-
support.
Yeah, more like stimulating activities and everything.
Yeah, love and beautiful.
Or yeah, or
So like maybe like have programs where they have like more like sort of like yeah. I don't know, like have more of a curriculum, like better, highly qualified.
Yeah.
And an earlier starting
We talked about a couple things that we thought were like hot topic issues that we thought policy-wise people could change. Some of the things that we brought up that we kind of ixnayed on were like clean water. Like I mean, everybody thinks that's an important issue, but there's so much always going on with it, and so much that people always are trying to do and saying about, and we just thought that was too kind of compacted and stuff going on with it. We also talked about the high-speed rail system that people have heard about before. Obama's talked about it before. He wanted to create a high-speed rail system across the United States for, especially metropolitan cities, that would cause like super duper reduced congestion on streets and stuff like that. But we thought that was kind of large, especially seeing the billions and billions of dollars it would take and stuff like that. Then we started talking about smaller scale, but that actually could be implemented in like larger scale areas, especially with our public school systems and stuff like that. We originally started talking about school food, which everybody again knows about because it's such a hot topic issue and such a just everybody always talks about it, especially with the pizza becoming a vegetable kind of thing. Just how that's going on. But then we came to the realization about the special needs programs in public schools nowadays. We were all just talking about how, especially in our high schools at least, it was more of a daycare center instead of an education-based system. And policy-wise, we thought this could be a good thing to come upon because state school systems are funded by state and national governances. And we just thought that more, especially with like higher functioning special needs children and adults. For instance, I go to a camp where we teach higher functioning autistic adults / children, like basic things in life, like laundry, cooking, like stuff like that. So maybe one day they're able to live on their own. However, when you go to these high schools where they're our age, or 16, 17, 18 years old, it's more of a daycare service and they're not learning anything. And policy-based implementation could be things along the lines of more money for a specialized staff, because half the time it's parents volunteering to go in and watch these kids, or teachers that have their free period or things like that. It's completely a daycare service. So we thought something like that could be implemented in the policy. More money given to this system in which we could teach instead of just babysit. And I think this would overall help. I mean, to be honest, it could even go as far as helping the economy. I mean, you put more people out there who know what they're doing instead of just an autistic person, a highly functioning autistic person that knows what they're doing and take care of themselves. If we just take them one more step up to the point where they can live by themselves and things like that, they can hold a basic job and stimulate the economy and be a part of it and live a better life for it. And so that was kind of our idea.
Steph. Okay, who's got questions? Who's got comments, concerns?
Okay, so about the special needs, what would you do with the children that do need babysitting, and then because they're the ones that need babysitting, they would need
more attention, because if we gave too much attention to the ones that are more capable, then who's to say those that need the attention won't like go crazy, because there's only so much one person could do in the classroom.
Right. Well, I know for a fact that in order to get into the public school system with at least our program was called CDC, special needs children or young adults or whatever, they have to meet at least a minimum requirement to where they can like eat by themselves. They don't need feeding tubes and things like that. There is a requirement to get into the school system, so it's not like I don't mean babysitting as in just like sitting there with a child the entire time. Like they can function by themselves, but there are varying levels of functionality. And I was saying for like the higher level ones, in order for them to like achieve the potential that they could achieve, we would need people with that special training that would be able to get these with those other children that wouldn't be able to, you know, reach that level. I mean, one, we can still try. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that, with them participating in the same kind of stuff to an extent. But at that point also, we do have teachers, again, in their free time and doing things that would like babysit almost. Like teachers during their free periods would be helping them there. I know in Carterville, that's what they did, or at high school, like teachers during their free periods would like just basically go and eat lunch and watch them. So I don't think it would take an influx of staff to just do the babysitting part. I think it would take an influx of staff to teach, to actually educate.
What do you think is the greatest shortcoming in this idea?
The people coming out of this department, there's a lot of them, and I know that they get paid well for what they do. Like I said, I went to one of those classes where they are able we teach these children what they have to learn. You get paid fairly well for doing this, and
Be hard for a public school to...
The public school system would be very strapped to hire these people that meet the requirements of like the educational system to bring them up to their potential. So that would, I would say, money.
My question was kind of related, but I was going to ask, do you see this as being like new funding or just kind of changing the way funding works and what it's used for? Because obviously any policy that you introduce that requires more spending is going to be harder to gain favor.
Right. I think it would need to be honestly brand new. Like the way that it's set up right now, it won't work, period. Like, as I said, the majority of the CDC teachers are just current teachers that are just helping, or parents that are volunteering and stuff like that. Like, I'd imagine the budget for this is small to nothing. I'd imagine it would take completely brand new policy.
Or I was thinking, instead of just creating a whole new policy, perhaps evaluating what is currently going on and what programs do work and what doesn't work, and removing the ones, and if need be new things created, then having funding for that. So.
Yeah. I've seen programs like this at work. We had to, as a part of that class I was going to, we had to go to classes in which they did this. They took the higher functioning, autistic especially children, and taught them like valuable life skills, but that was a completely third party that parents would pay to send their children to in order to teach them these skills. It wasn't implemented in the public schools, which basically nullifies that to only those with money can teach their children this, and everybody else that goes to the public school system just kind of gets washed by the wayside. Anything else?
All right, thanks. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so we spoke on education mostly, which is why I wanted to make sure to piggyback on that. We spoke more broadly on the terms that when you think of American public education policy, the hallmark of it are piecemeal, poorly written policies that just try and go over the top and contain everything. The most recent ones, No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top out of the most recent administration. Now, it's just so incredibly difficult to come up with a solution that would solve all the different problems of like federal public education funding. So we figured we might as well go back to the idea that states are the laboratories for public policy and focus on Tennessee as something that definitely needs reworking in the education department. Currently, compared to, while we are doing well historically compared to ourselves and those adjacent around us, compared to, say, Iowa or Massachusetts, we're right up, like, worst 5 states education-wise. And so we figured that would be our solution would take the form of an overarching policy for the state. So while it would be ambitious, it would be just for the state, and therefore maybe a little more feasible. We figured we'd break it down to the sources of your problems. Overcrowding, we thought, was a big one. Teacher quality, and how you fund your schools. Here in Tennessee, it's mostly based off property taxes, so areas that have more expensive homes, therefore higher property taxes, those schools get more funding. In poorer places, they get less funding, and in the poorest places, they get no funding at all because those people don't pay property taxes. So maybe a reformation of the way that we fund our schools. Another thing being standardized testing, taking that out, maybe reforming that. And on that note, a whole part of the solution would be going through and finding those relics of poor policy and routing those out and replacing them with things that do work. Just like with finding those unsuccessful special education programs and finding the successful ones and just making sure that the successful ones flourish and not the ones that fail. Questions?
So, excuse me, are you talking about like funding reform or teaching standard reform?
Multifaceted reform. So it would be like think about some sort of pithy title, Tennessee will be the smartest state, some sort of acronym for that. But it would be a multifaceted reform of teacher quality, overcrowding, build more schools. That would be your little mini solution within your broader solution. And then, but I think to go right to the heart of the issue, the crux of the matter, big thing would be how you fund your public schools. How much of it are you just like trying to survive off federal funding, or do you have the supplementary local funding that you need to thrive? Sean?
I'd just like to clarify in the beginning, you stated something which is a really common misconception, which is Race to the Top wasn't an education policy so much as it was an initiative for competitive grants that just came with certain strings attached.
Okay, right. I had in my mind as a separate issue, but I was aware of that. And that feeds into another issue of why this is right for us to work on. Tennessee just got $14 billion in stimulus money for Race to the Top. Thank you for clarifying me on that. So we presented a plan on how we're going to spend this money, but it's not set in stone. So currently government is open to other ways of reforming our education system.
But that money was one time out, so not getting it again.
Right, but it's not spent.
Yeah, I think it's based out over several years.
So when you're saying, and this is the only way I just kind of made me think about it, you're saying a lot of these reforms have to do with multifaceted reforms, but on a national scale. Would a multifaceted reform on a state scale almost be looked at as the exact same? Like, should we maybe try to focus in on 1 or 2 topics instead of, basically going with the same outline except on a smaller scale? Or
something that I liked about the project that you presented was that it was specific and therefore more actionable. You can think of it in your mind like, you know what, that is a problem that we can fix. You think about the broad school system and it's immediately overwhelming. So aiming big, yes, I think overarching reform, but if we wanted to do something that's more actionable, then something smaller like overcrowding, special ed programs, various programs that need to be reworked.
So if you had to pick one of them, which one would you go with?
Probably funding, because that really brings it back to like, why are we overcrowded? Why don't these kids have updated textbooks? And it's not just that it's skewed regionally, it's skewed like intra-communally. It's checkerboard. Like the kids in Bearden are getting the the newest science textbooks that have 6 classifications of animal kingdoms, and the kids in East Knoxville are getting the ones that have Monera as the 7th classification that's been taken out like a decade ago. So these kids are learning things that is like antiquated knowledge.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. I mean, I like Hunter's comment, where it is fairly broad.
Right.
But it's a start.
Aim big.
It's a start. Aim big. I like it. Good. Good deal. I mean, fairly broad. But all right. Thank you.
We had several ideas, and our first idea was kind of along the lines of what the previous group was talking about with education funding. And something I've been reading about lately was in Minnesota, there was a huge disparity between the funding of wealthy suburban counties and relatively poor urban counties. So the state of Minnesota has actually set up a pilot program where they go in and take all the property tax funding earmarked for education in like a collection of like 8 counties, and they put it into a pot and send 75 cents of every dollar back to the counties that those property taxes came from. But then I'll take a portion of the property taxes from the wealthier counties and distribute them to the poorer urban counties to even out the funding that disparity that has kind of grown as a result of wealthier people leaving urban areas to suburbs where they had better schools. So that kind of like builds off of what they were talking about, and it's a really interesting idea because I know it's a little different in Memphis, but I know in like Nashville, the surrounding counties their schools are significantly better than like Metro Nashville schools. So that is a problem here. Another idea we talked about was historic preservation in Fort Sanders. A lot of the homes there are over 100 years old and historic, but they're very poorly maintained. And the university is actually trying to currently eminent domain 3 100-year-old Victorian mansions so that they can tear them down to build, I think, a new chemistry lab. And so that's just something I think that kind of destroys like a little bit of Knoxville's character when you kind of just like erase whole blocks of historic things to just put up new buildings without really taking into consideration, whether or not they're worth saving. And our final idea is I think our most ambitious, as Jonathan wrote, huge policy change, is to get Sonic to buy the abandoned crystals on the strip and set up a Sonic, and then have Sonic, and then get Sonic to set up one on every SEC campus with specific school themed, maybe like like ice cream treats on game days. Red Apple Wave in Alabama. Kind of like orange creamsicles.
And it's a lot of jobs.
And the PCC follows Sonic.
Yes, and that's an economic boost. Bring more people to the strip, maybe on like weekdays and not just weekend nights.
School spirit. Go Balls.
Some sort of tax break for Sonic is what you're saying.
Yeah. So those are our 3 ideas.
I like it. I like the last one a lot.
I think everyone would.
Who said go Balls, go Sonic?
I said go Balls and he said go Sonic.
Team J squared.
Cool. Who's got questions, comments, or concerns?
I have lots of concerns.
Can you run by me? What was the first idea again?
Okay, basically, I'm most familiar with kind of Nashville, Middle Tennessee stuff, so I'll use that as an example. Metro Nashville schools are just funded by Metro Nashville property taxes.
I'm sorry, I meant the second idea.
Oh, the second idea, the historic preservation.
Oh, the historic preservation.
That was the second idea. Is that the one you're?
Yeah, I just wondered about it.
I don't know how that would work, but I imagine it would involve maybe setting up some kind of advocacy group or.
Because you could apply it to
making people knowledgeable that these are historic homes that.
How would you implement policy in order to make that actionable?
I know that other historic neighborhoods just kind of have historic neighborhood committees that make people just aware of the historic nature of their neighborhoods.
Yeah. Well, are these private residents or?
In the fort, I think some of them are probably apartment buildings. The houses have probably been like walls erected to make them apartments, but.
So if we turned them into like monuments or something like that.
Well, not monuments, but just like Jonathan was saying, kind of like restore them to how they were when they were first built, but in a way that they could be like rented out as apartments.
So they go under state control instead of local.
No, I think this would be totally like kind of encouraging and advocating for like people to kind of do this themselves, but doing it in such a way that makes it attractive to them.
Well, I just have a question on the first one. You talked about, like, you referenced Minnesota.
Yeah, almost positive it's Minnesota.
Right, okay. I guess my question doesn't really matter which state it was. Is the same system or the same problem here in Tennessee?
It is. Like I'm in Metro Nashville, and they're funded by Davidson County property taxes.
Okay.
So the schools there are very underfunded. You know, the textbooks are out of date and they're overcrowded. Whereas in Williamson County, where I'm from, you know, we lack for nothing because property values are high. It's fairly affluent, and so the disparity between Brentwood High School and Antioch High School, which are maybe only 15 miles apart, is huge. And a lot of people who live in Williamson County work in Davidson County, but they've chosen to live, 10 miles within the county line outside of Nashville because the schools are better in Williamson County.
Okay. Is there any like state subsidies that would counteract that difference? That you know of?
Yeah, the schools get money from the state, but it doesn't really. The lion's share of it's property taxes, so it doesn't really have a huge impact.
Cool. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns other than J squared? All right, thanks, guys. Excuse me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 5 minutes. We're gonna have a break. There's cookies up front. There's water in the hall. I know, very luxurious accommodations. But we're gonna take a 5-minute break. We're gonna compile a list and we're gonna put it on the screen. Then everyone's gonna vote. Before we vote, we're gonna have just 5 minutes. We're gonna keep this one pretty short. But if you have any idea that you see on the list that you really want to talk about or that you really like, you're going to have time to defend it. If you have something you don't think we should do, stay away from, we're going to give you a few minutes to like tell us why we shouldn't do it. If it's your idea, please don't take offense. It's just all pragmatic here. And then we're going to vote, tally them up, and have some fun working on them. All right, so 10-minute break. It's 5 minutes.
5-minute break.
5-minute break. 24 now. At 30, we're going to do it. 7 minutes. And we're going to do the voting just like we did it last semester, but so that everyone is on the same page of what all of these mean. Knox Inc. is one we did last semester. Advantages of Knox Inc. is we've already started. Weigh that in your mind. We have a pretty good idea. But FSRLA, I'm going to let Jonathan very concisely remind everyone what it is.
Basically, last week we came with an idea that was employing homeless through an organization to be created, employing homeless people around Knoxville to help clean up the fort by picking up litter and meeting two goals by supplying some sort of a form of income and employment to those who have no income and no employment, and then also picking up the trash in the fort, which is a major problem.
Okay, next, transit efficiency at Knoxville. We talked about, like GPS trackers on buses, things like that. One point to make about the transit efficiency at Knoxville, UT Knox, although they are terrible at telling everybody what's going on, they have assigned a task force to address this problem already, filled with students. So on the possibility or on the framework of being unique, that's definitely not the one to be unique with. Not that it's not a good idea, it's just something that's already existed. Then we have childhood obesity in Tennessee schools. I added that because it was second place on our docket last time, and it's just like a resounding issue every single time we talk to someone. I don't feel like I need any more explanation, do I? Nope. Nope. Okay. That can be done like food-wise, business-wise, anything. Clean water reform, that comes up all the time. We have high-speed rail system. Positive, negatives about that. I'm going to get everybody else's time to talk in just a second, but since I'm already talking, if it's something that's already been proposed by Barack Obama or the current legislature, again, that's not unique. It's not going to make us stand out, et cetera, et cetera. We have public school system food improvements. Now this can kind of tie in with number 9 as well. But who went to a public school in here? I went to public school. Is it not like the most disgusting food you've ever eaten?
I liked it.
Deliciously disgusting.
I loved it.
I had 3 hot dogs that bounced.
I would just step my face every day and just
Love chimichangas.
Yeah, we had the nastiest, delicious.
Yeah, I was just thinking
It was so delicious.
I was a big
Okay.
Does the public school food improvements, that pretty much goes under childhood obesity? That would be like one of the initiatives of that problem. So I feel like that should just be completely included into number 4. So
That's an excellent point.
yeah, just as long as everybody knows, that would be like one of the things that goes under that program.
Excellent point. Okay. Special needs program reform. My sister's a special ed teacher, and she's worked in the system for a long time in Tennessee and other places. And the Tennessee special education system in the public schools is awful. They have no funding, and they do things in very, we'll call them interesting ways. Definitely needs reform. It's something you really care about, something you want to talk about. Absolutely vote for it. Tennessee education funding policy reform. We talked a lot about that. It seemed to be a huge resounding issue with everybody, whether it's funding going to, actually special needs program reform could fall into that. But whether it's county-based funding, where is Sean?
He had to leave to go study for an exam.
Okay, I was just about to ask him to explain more. But whether it's county-based funding or state subsidies funding, it seems to be an issue that everybody likes. Historic preservation of the Fort Sanders area, everyone heard Sean talk about that. Does anyone want to speak for or against any of the issues? All right.
5 and 6 just aren't actionable / unique / interesting because they're so well treaded upon. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay. Good comment, Megan?
I don't want to sound like a huge jerk, but I'm
You won't
just
sound
gonna
like
put
a
it
huge
out there.
jerk.
So I really like the idea of FSRLA, but my only issue with it is I think that there's kind of this underlying assumption that homelessness is like a direct result of joblessness, which is not necessarily always the case, I don't think. So, just something to consider. I don't.
Okay, good comment. Good comment. John?
Would there be policy behind the FSRLA? And what would it be if it was?
Well,
We'll have to find that out if we choose to do it.
Okay.
I can tell you now, I won't probably sci students feel like my mind thinks this way already, but there could definitely be policy behind it. I would like to not suggest anything though, so that we can kind of like, if that's what's picked, we can do that as a group. There could be policy behind it. Anyone else? Ryan, you're scratching your head.
I don't know. I guess the only thing I have, I guess an opinion about, or like a strong opinion against, is the historic preservation of Fort Sanders, just because it's already so, I guess, I hate to use the word run down, but just not in a great state already, and it's 90% used for student living.
Sure.
And so I just think that it would be much better focused on one of the other 8.
Okay. Cool. John?
Just a quick sort of rebuttal to what you said. That's not the intention, and that's not the relationship thought. It's just like there are people who have a need, and this is a mutual need that can be met for both parties.
Cool. Anyone else? Hunter?
I just do have to say one thing about, the special needs program reform, I don't know, I suggested it, but it just hits home for me pretty hard because I work with these kids a lot. And I just find it to be really cookie cutter to what the TCC would like to do, for instance. It's very, very policy implemented. It's very, very, it's doable. for sure. And it could, if something like that were to go into effect, it could actually make a very, very large difference. If you think about the actual like implications of it, I think that could turn into something really special.
Okay. Cool. Very cool. Okay. So on the bottom are just things to consider. I misspelled expertise. But things to consider of each project. Feasibility, is this something that a group this size can do? Expertise, are there enough people in this room that have enough expertise to talk about the issue readily? If the answer to that is no, or if it is yes, think about the next thing, research need. If we don't know a lot about it, it's going to take a lot of research. So that's just there. If you don't like research, then pick something that you like more. And then your interest level. Nobody wants, or some people talk about things they don't really are interested in, but people better work in the things that they are interested in. So the way voting works is you have preference 1, 2, and 3. Preference 1, pick one for each one of them. Preference 1 gets 3 points, preference 2 gets 2 points, and preference 3 gets 1 point. We total them all up, and then you just rank them that way. And then, so just give everybody, we'll give everybody 5 minutes and we'll be good to go. So we have our top 3, and we can list the rest of the docket later. But our top 3, number 2 is special needs program reform. Number 3, Knox Inc. And the project that we'll start working on next week is, what's the drum roll? Hey! A very resounding yes. Okay. So next week, well actually for the next 5 minutes, we're going to start working on this, and then we're going to start heavily working on it next week. Tennessee Education Funding Policy Reform. You've heard a little bit about it. I'm going to snag individuals for the next 5 minutes and talk. Other than that, if you 3 right here will conglomerate everybody into 2 different groups, and the 2 groups talk about what the problem is, talk about possible solutions. We're not deciding on anything right now. The issue is public schools in Tennessee are not funded correctly, not ill-funded, not overfunded, they're just not funded correctly. We'll work on narrowing it down next week. If you guys will split everybody into 2 groups and do that, and then I'm going to pick a few of you out, and then we're going to close here in like 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes to do this. Let's do it quickly, get everybody's mind going on it, and we'll attack it really hard next week.
Conglomerate.
Here's the grand scheme of things that's going on. We are the pilot branch of a supposed to be larger network of organizations at other schools. That includes a nonprofit umbrella corporation that essentially charters these out. We are using crowdfunding. We talked about crowdfunding. Does everybody know what crowdfunding is by this point? Lots of small donations. Come from all sorts of different sources. We're using things like Kickstarter, Neighborly, et cetera, et cetera. Big problem with those is you have to get awareness. First, those websites run on a hits basis, so the highest number of hits lands on the front page. Front page, get more money than everybody else. So what we're doing, and this is a creative approach to marketing. Don't hit me for not asking you first. But what we're doing is we are having as she said last week, a caricature debate. We're taking caricatures of 2 members of the organization, which already sit on different ends of the political aisle, and we're going to have an online debate with them, including with Tumblr and Blogger, essentially the same thing on both. Meg is libertarian, so the debate is free market versus public sector solutions. Whether or not problems that are around us, minus organizations like us, should be fixed by people in the government, or they should be fixed by people in the private sector. Meg is
Free market.
Free market. And her blog is Le Libertaire Alliance 2012, and she posts a couple times a day. It's really good. I read it every day. There's a really awesome video right here. Please watch it if you haven't seen it.
That's awesome.
Then Sean's is
As we the people please.
I like it.
That,
Yeah.
that's good. We the
Blogspot.
As we.
Do what?
It's as we the people.
It's as we the people, please. Okay, John's different style. Everybody knows Sean's a little bit different guy. He is public sector solutions. What these two are doing right now is they're building an online persona in 3 days. Yeah, okay. In 3 days, they're going to start debating online. The reason for the debate is to get activity. With a week and a half past the debate date, week and a half past the debate date, we're going to tailor both blogs into TCC blogs. So essentially they're going to magically find a solution, thus the TCC, and they're going to blog about supporting us. So we're going to get as many followers on both of these sides of the aisle, then we're going to get as many followers on the middle aisle, and then we're going to push them all to the crowdfunding pages. Online marketing, synergizing our crowdfunding effort. The reason I'm talking about it now is A, because there are members in here that are doing it, and we should all support each other all the time. B, the way Tumblr works is the more hits you get, the more popular you are. The more hits you get, the more people will follow you, and the more people will follow you, the more people will follow them. They see it, see it, see it. And you need to think about it in the way of the more people that follow, the more people that see the Kickstarter, and the more money we get. And the more money we get means we can do more things. Essentially, our limitations are none right now. We can do anything we want, and it just depends on how much publicity we get with the whole process.
I was going to say, I think it'd be smart if members kind of identify with one or the other.
Sure.
Of the blogs.
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. I'm trying to wrap it up real quick. I know we're running late. Get a Tumblr. Just get one. Get a Tumblr. We're going to post these two names on the Facebook page. Get a Tumblr and comment on them. Reblog them, repost them, follow them. People will follow you, etc., etc. Just publicity that way. Pick a side of the debate, and it will spur it on. Everyone's seen a debate on YouTube comments. People love online debates, and it doesn't really matter who the people are. We just need publicity. We need numbers at this point. Get a Tumblr, even if this is the only thing you use it for, and join it. And post it on your Facebook or whatever. It should be a really interesting debate. These guys are very intellectual heavyweights. It should be very enlightening if you don't know much about the current debate, and if you do, it should be really fun to watch. I can't wait to see it happen. So yeah, please, please, please join in. Yes?
I will send out an email with the 2 links to these and further instructions on how to kind of spread this to the web and get people to go and look at this and to participate in our whole blogging experience. So expect that.
Okay. Thank you guys. I will see you next week, same place, same time.